Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's had a chance to join us already. I want to welcome you to this webinar of ISO TC 314, which is the Aging Society's Technical Committee for Standardization. This is our second annual event, and I'm very pleased to say this year we'll be focusing on digitalization and its impact on older people. So welcome, everybody, and I hope you'll have a great time with us. Before we get started, just a few little housekeeping items. So this is a listen-only webinar, which means you're all going to be on mute. So you don't have to worry about background noises on your end. We will take care of that for you. Only the speakers can unmute themselves. If you do have questions, and we encourage you to do have questions, you can put that in the Q&A function, and we'll be collecting all of those questions so we can ask them at the panel at the end of all of the presentations. So I hope you can do that for me. And thank you for those people who've already submitted their comments and questions in advance. So thank you so much. If at any point of the meeting you have to leave early, that's no problem, because the recording is going to be available on our YouTube channel. So give it a few days and then you can follow the rest of the event that you might have missed. We also have our event from last year available there, so you can join us for that one there as well. And then without further ado, I'm going to kick off the event today. And as I said, it's going to be a global event. We're going to be seeing perspectives from all over the world today. And we're going to be starting with Toronto, because we have Alex Mihailidis to join us from the University of Toronto. And he's also the Age Well Director in Canada. Unfortunately, Alex was going to be here with us, but he has another event to go to. He's very much in demand. So we're very pleased that he's recorded a session for us for this event. And he's going to be talking about co-designing our digital futures. So I will launch the video and then hopefully it'll work. Let's see if it works.
Well, welcome everyone, and thank you very much for inviting me to give this presentation on older people co-designing their digital futures. My name is Alex Mihailidis, and I am the Scientific Director and CEO of AgeWell, a national network across Canada that is focused on the design, development, commercialization, knowledge translation of age tech or technologies to support older adults. And I'm also a professor at the University of Toronto for the past 19 years working in this field. So to begin with, and I don't need to spend a lot of time on this, is that we all know that our demographic is changing. We know that Canada, by the year 2050, will be considered one of the super age countries. And along with this has also come a decrease in the number of caregivers or family members who will be available to provide care to these individuals. However, in spite of these demographic shifts and this change in the availability of caregivers, we believe that all older people can still age well, even in the face of the issues I've mentioned before, but also in the face of disease, impairment, disability, whether that's a cognitive disability such as Alzheimer's or a physical disability. Now, when I talk about aging well, I'm referring to the fact that older adults can still continue to engage with their social circles. They can engage in the decision-making around various aspects of their health and wellness, and they can also continue to engage in everyday activities. Now, obviously, this can only be done with proper interventions being put in place, and these interventions is not a one-fit-all model, and there's no silver bullet. It is a combination of human resources, whether it's family caregivers, paid caregivers, medical staff. But in the case of my presentation today, it is around technology as well. So over the past many years, we have seen a significant increase in the use of technology to support older people and their caregivers, whether these are off-the-shelf devices such as tablets, like pictured here, to more sophisticated technologies that our network is working on across our universities, such as robotics, artificial intelligence, and smart homes. Now, out of this work has emerged a field called age tech, and the question is, well, what is age tech? And age tech itself, in terms of the definition that we have adopted, is actually quite broad. In fact, we have been looking at technologies that not only include healthcare technologies, as we typically would think about, but also technologies that come out of the financial industry and other sectors as well. So, for example, the work that's been done to make bank machines and banking more accessible, whether at the branch itself through a teller or online, is also included in the age tech space. So as such, what we started to see over the past several years is an emerging subset out of the health tech sector that focuses on technology and innovation for older people. And the word innovation is critical here because it's not just about the technology itself, as I'll talk about, but innovation can also include social innovation, which can have a significant impact on the lives of older people and their caregivers. So as part of this conversation, and before we start to discuss in terms of how do we include older adults in the design of their digital technologies or age tech, it's important to understand that, again, over the past several years, we've realized that there's an expansion in terms of who our stakeholders and who ultimately our customers are of these types of technologies. So while the majority of technologies are still purchased by older people or used directly by older people themselves, we're obviously all starting to see an increase in the customer segment base. That is, people who are purchasing these devices on behalf of the older adults themselves. And typically this is their family caregivers who are purchasing the technologies, installing the technologies perhaps in the homes of their loved ones, and then maintaining it as well. We're also starting to see the development of a new economy within age tech, where technologies are being traded, so to speak, between older and younger people. And this happens all the time, and I'm sure we've been part of this as well, where perhaps we've given an old tablet or our old phone to our parents or to our grandparents or to someone else that we're providing care to, and we've gone ahead and helped to customize and modify it for their needs. The final piece of this whole thing, though, is in terms of understanding that while we are dealing with a specific demographic today that's considered the older population, this is ever changing. So for example, in most recent times, we have seen baby boomers become the older adult demographic. And these individuals are coming in far more tech savvy than we've seen before, but more importantly, with a stronger expectation that technology will be part of their lives and be part of their healthcare and wellness. Furthermore, from a research and development perspective, we are seeing that this new demographic of older adult is also having a stronger expectation of being part of the development of their own technologies as well. So having said that, and if you look at the literature, et cetera, there is a strong potential for technology to support healthy and active aging. However, and you could be expecting that but to be coming, at the end of the day, we've still not done a great job in terms of translating these technologies from the research labs into the hands of the people that need them. And those technologies that have been translated continue to have usability issues and completely are not representing the complete requirements and needs of the older adults themselves. And now I use this image a little bit of tongue in cheek just to demonstrate that even though we've done so much work around technology, this type of system, that is the personal emergency response system button, is still considered one of the most successful age tech products that are out there. And the issue is we continue just to incrementally improve upon these types of technologies as opposed to doing something that truly is disruptive. And that is not only just in the technologies themselves, but actually in the inclusion of older people moving forward in the design of these types of technologies. While this technology is considered one of the most successful commercial age tech products out there, it's actually one of the poorest with respect to usability. The companies themselves that make these technologies even admit themselves that up to 80% of their customers never wear the button, and that's due to usability issues, stigma, and other comments that we've received around the design of this particular product. So really at the end of the day, in my opinion, we are still missing the target with respect to how to design these technologies. And the reason we're missing the target is because at the center of this, or the bullseye, is this whole notion of empathy. We are still not designing technologies with a full understanding of the needs of older people, and we're still not applying the term empathy to what we do. Now, just so that we're on the same page, we are defining empathy as the experience of understanding another person's thoughts, feelings, and condition from his or her point of view rather than from one's own. Now, with that, it's very important to understand that if you don't understand the wants, needs, and values of your target population, you are designing for your ideals and assumptions, which is usually not their reality. So with that in mind, what we hope to achieve by including older adults now in the design of these technologies is for us to go from this barren wasteland, which in this slide to me represents our research labs and our current state, that we basically have all these technologies becoming orphan technologies because we're not able to get across this roadway to this greener pasture. This roadway may also be known as the Valley of Death in some circles. But essentially what we want to do is be able to design technologies that are actually going to have an impact because older adults want to use them and find them useful in their daily lives. So this leads back to this whole notion of empathetic design. And there's really 4 key aspects that we need to be doing in order to include older people in the design of their own technologies. That is, we need to see their world. We need to understand their feelings. We need to appreciate them as human beings and not just research subjects. And then we need to communicate your understanding and our understanding of what we learn and translate that into the design of our new technologies moving forward. In addition, we need to see the whole picture. As I mentioned before, the term innovation is critical because it's not just about the technology itself. I can design you the best robot possible and the coolest piece of technology. But if I don't understand the service delivery model here in the light blue, and I don't understand the policy and regulations here represented in the dark blue circle, in order to actually get these technologies into the homes of older people, then that technology is just going to sit in the research lab and collect dust, which unfortunately is the case still for the majority of technologies being designed in this field. In addition, we need to continue to take a model of not just empathetic design, but also strong knowledge translation and communication of what we're doing. So in addition to the various aspects of empathetic design, we need to work very closely with our end users, that is the older adults and perhaps their caregivers, and we need to listen, we need to analyze, and then we need to act. Now, it's interesting that this diagram is almost like one of those fidget spinners in my mind, because with a fidget spinner, you spin it round and round and round. And that's exactly what we need to be doing when we start to design technologies for older people, and really any type of population that we're developing new technologies for, is we need to iterate over and over again until we get it right. Now, sometimes this is challenging, difficult, and expensive, but it must be something that we take on within the age tech field in order, again, to have as much impact as possible. So to finish off, these are just some very high level, very quick ideas in terms of the user experience, and including older people in the design of our future technologies. And hopefully that we all understand that really the time is now to change our thinking. Because of the changing demographic, because of the pandemic and other issues that have come to light because of that, people have realized that technology really can fill a gap in the particular area of providing care and support to older adults and their caregivers and other care professionals. However, we are still not there yet. We need to continue to work with our policymakers, with our researchers, with our various corporate and not-for-profit partners, because we really don't have the time anymore to be incremental in this field. As I mentioned before, we cannot just build upon technologies and products already out there just because they do the job at the end of the day. But we really need to be disruptive at this point to start to think of new ways, not just in the development of our technologies, but again, in this holistic approach that I described before. And finally, and most importantly, we need to communicate with our consumers, and we need to ensure that we tell our stories so that people understand the technology that are being developed and the solutions that are available for them. With that, I thank you very much for having me. And here's my contact information. We're always looking for new people to connect with. And with that, again, thank you very much. And I hope you enjoyed this presentation.
I personally love the video because it really represents what we need to change in the terms of designing new products. So thank you, Alex, for submitting that to us. And I do hope that some of you can reach out to him if you do have questions or ideas. I'm sure he'll be happy to hear from you. So with that, we will go to Australia now, where we're going to be hearing from my colleagues Anne Livingstone and Georgie Gould from the community resourcing in Australia. So I'm going to be handing over to the both of you and to talk about what is changing in the care setting and how can technology help for that.
Thanks, Nell, and thanks for that warm introduction and the opportunity to be involved in tonight's or today's presentation tonight, where Georgie and I are presenting from. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm presenting from the lands of the Quandamooka people of southeast Queensland, and I'd like to pay my respect to them and to their elders, both past and present. Our presentation tonight is going to concentrate on the opportunities that technology provides, as Alex has outlined, for both older people, but for the care and support that is provided to them. So I'm Anne Livingstone. I'm joined tonight by my colleague Georgie Gould, my esteemed colleague. We do both work for a company in Australia called Global Community Resourcing, where we have the opportunity to work on many projects, both in this country and in other countries, where innovation and technology is leading the way of reforming and indeed transforming services and support for older people and their families. But we also wear a couple of other hats. In our spare time, we assist our colleague, Dr. George Mangelis, and others in the Aged Care Industry Information Technology Council. And we also convene a global collaborative, which I'm going to talk to you later about, the Community Care Smart Assistive Technology Collaborative. We're both actively involved in standards and are passionate about the role that standards provide. I'm involved actively in ISO TC314, Aging Societies, and Georgie's starting her journey in standards of being part of Standards Australia Next Generation program. So what are we going to talk about tonight? We're going to lead you through a couple of issues around how the world is changing, and as Alex indicated, that the world's population is growing older. By 2050, it's estimated that 1 in 6 people in the world will be over the age of 65. And while age profiles in different countries vary, there's great opportunities to explore the challenges of digital maturity and digital inclusion of older people. But we're also going to concentrate on the importance of digital maturity for our sector, the challenges that older people are facing both here in Australia and globally, and some of the opportunities that our work is showing that technology really can provide for older people to remain more in control and have choice in their lives. So I'm going to pass over to Georgie, who's going to lead us through some of our early considerations. Thanks, Georgie.
Thank you, Anne. As I'm sure we're all aware, digital inclusion is ensuring all have access to and use digital technologies effectively. Digital technologies have become vital to society. In times of crisis, from natural disasters to pandemics, digital connectivity is what keeps people, government, and businesses connected. Yet half the world's population is without digital access, with the vast majority concentrated in developing countries. The Telstra Australian Digital Inclusion Index tells us the percentage of highly digital excluded Australians has decreased from 2020 and 2021. In 2020, 17% of the Australian population was highlighted as digitally excluded, and in 2021, this dropped to 11% of the population. The decrease in Australian digital exclusion is believed to be caused by the rapid and ongoing uptake of technology driven by the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic has seen global rapid change to digital services, including online disruption and consumption of consumers and public services. When compared globally, the Australian digital exclusion rate is low. However, much work must be done globally to accelerate digital access to build affordable, safe, and reliable connectivity for all. Around the world, digital inclusion of older people is critical. Some of the factors preventing the digital inclusion of older people include lower opportunities for education, receiving a low income, single-person households, living with disability, and being unemployed. Globally, digital maturity of older people has improved as COVID-19 pandemic required a reliance on online technologies to manage daily life. We've seen a positive improvement in digital literacy through the use of social connection opportunities, online shopping and services, and telehealth, just to name a few. But now more than ever, we need to think about the types of platforms and technologies provided to older people to make sure they are user-friendly and, where possible, co-designed. We have also investigated the digital maturity of the Australian aged and community care sector, particularly the workforce that supports older Australians to live their lives in their own homes and communities or in residential care settings. The Australian market includes features such as rural and remote communities, different cultural backgrounds, including Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, and special need groups such as older Australians that are now aging who were placed in institutional care as children. These also include child migrants from Britain, Malta, and Ireland. In this work, we're focusing on the workforce and the different factors that impact the uptake of technologies. Some of these factors are evident globally. These include the digital maturity of the care workforce providing support to older people. The digital maturity of the sector is low and needs to be improved with better support and care. Specifically, there needs to be a focus on cybersecurity, which is an important issue in Australia and globally at the moment. We've also identified the need to introduce a range of minimum standards covering the care of individuals in both in-home care and long-term care settings. This is where the work of ISO TC 314 Aging Societies is so important, along with the standards covering technology, innovation, and clinical care. In a project we undertook in 2020, we identified 420 unique technology applications being used in the provision of aged care in Australia. Then in 2021, we further drilled down on this, looking at the clinical care systems where we identified 287 unique clinical systems in use. Our current work has focused on the critical importance of standardization as aged and community care embraces the potential of technology, and that there needs to be an important emphasis on co-design approaches with both older people themselves and the aged and community care workforce. But the future is here, and those that don't want to be left behind need to look ahead and engage appropriately with technologies. There are global challenges facing older people, which will cause barriers to the uptake of technologies. Societies and government around the world are placing their focus on ethics of technology, such as the use of technologies that incorporate artificial intelligence, automated decision-making, and consumer interactions. These need to be managed to ensure the digital harm, disinformation, antitrust, and foreign interferences are minimized, and that the safety, security, and trust of older people are maximized. As ethical issues arise from new technology, growth and diversity, ISO standards can ensure a level playing field in the global market. Another area is data privacy. There is a trend towards the progressive loss of privacy that accompanies new developments in technology. To reassure consumers, both government regulation and business leadership are necessary to establish appropriate privacy and data management standards to incorporate and keep pace with emerging technologies. These technology standards need to focus on the appropriate use of technology along with quality management of data to protect consumers and build confidence in using these technologies. Another critical area for consideration is cyber vulnerability. A key factor for provision is increasing risk awareness and proactiveness risk mitigation. Again, older people should be at the forefront of developing these approaches. As the International Standards Organization has pointed out, as technologies become integrated into more aspects of our lives, The risk is certainly to be expected with disruptive technology, and that is the price we'll pay with greater benefits these technologies offer. It is a question of how we recognise and mitigate these risks to ensure technologies can be used to benefit all.
Thanks, Georgie. And along with those challenges that Georgie's outlined, we also see some great opportunities. Also, with all the negative impacts of COVID-19, particularly on the aged and community care landscape in Australia and around the world, we also have seen some really positive outcomes, and they include the uptake of telehealth and telecare approaches, as well as really fully recognising the advantages of technology like we're on today, like Zoom, that's been able to socially connect us and connect our businesses. But for us, COVID's also demonstrated that where there is a critical mass of will and clear priorities, that innovation can quickly reach the front line. I think one of our colleagues on the line here today, Sabrina Pitt, termed it as forced innovation, and we've certainly seen that happen, but we've certainly seen over the last 2 years some really clear benefits. But through our work, we've seen really some potential of advanced technologies, those that are here now, like technologies that can help older people with their medication and pain management, recognising when they might be about to have a fall, or predicting their chance of having a fall, to detecting a fall when it happens. We're also seeing great advances with voice recognition technologies, with robotics, and particularly socially assistive robotics, and emerging technologies like artificial intelligence. And indeed, we're doing a lot of work around collaborative intelligence, where both human and machine interaction is being applied in the aged care setting. So it's with all these potentials that we're interested in what is hindering technology being used. We do know that there's some barriers for older people, and Georgie and Alex have both indicated some of those. Some of those that we've identified are really accessing networks, the cost of devices, and also the cost of getting data. The skills and literacies are certainly points. But also for aged and community care providers, we've identified a number of barriers, including the cost of scaling and embedding technologies in care provision, the culture of workplaces where innovation and new approaches may not be encouraged, and the time allowed. You know, many of our frontline workers are just exhausted and don't have time to do business as usual, let alone innovate their practice. And of course, there is this overriding fear of technology. But we can go forward, we can progress. And one of the key ways of doing that is through co-design. Alex demonstrated that beautifully by his presentation, but all our work is underpinned by co-designing with older people themselves and with those who are involved in the industry, both at the front line and in developing new approaches. We're hopeful that our country will have a national approach to a living lab type approach to new futures for both older people and their families. So that's it from us, Nell. I guess I'd like to close by saying that for us, technology standards and standards more broadly in ageing societies are playing a critical role in assisting the quality of aged care and ensuring that systems are fit for purpose for older people. We'd encourage you to be involved in standards development, and I've put on the list here, the Ageing Societies TC314 LinkedIn page, but I've also given a short cut to a newly published book that's included a chapter on age-friendly standards. And I'll shout out to my colleagues, Nell, Sabrina, and Adriana, and others on the link that contributed to that book chapter. And in our own country, we convene the Community Care Smart Assistive Technology Collaborative. We've got thousands of people interested in collaborating on issues where technology is influencing the way that primary community-based services are provided. So on behalf of Georgie and myself, thank you for listening, and over back to you, Mel. Thank you.
Fantastic. Such an interesting presentation, showing us some of the barriers and some of the upcoming emerging technologies, which will be a real big help. So that's really great to see. Thank you. So with that, I think we can go to Tokyo now, the other side of the world again. And we will be joined by Professor Hajime Hamida. And unfortunately, he is also stuck in a meeting. So he has sent us a video in the morning in case he wasn't here with us on time, but we hope that he will be here in time for the Q&A. So that's great. So he's joining us from the University of Tokyo, and he's also a head of delegation for the Japanese Mirror Committee to our technical committee. So I look forward to hearing his presentation.
Today, I want to talk expectations for standardization from a super aging society, Japan. This slide shows the population trend in Japan. Population of people aged between 15 to 64 are 77 million in 2015, and it will reduce to 45 million in 2065. At the same time, population of people aged 65 and over stay around 33 million. Japan is really a super aging society. These trends force Japan to develop policy measures that tackles issues due to population aging. Digital economy is an area that needs policy measures. Older persons should be empowered to use the digital economy smoothly without the support of younger generation. Otherwise, economic efficiency will be significantly reduced. Policy measures implemented so far are as follows. For health, care, and well-being, there are two major policies. The first, the long-term care insurance system was enforced in the year 2000. All persons aged 40 and over pay the cost of long-term care for persons aged 65 and over. The second, community-based integrated care system will be developed completely by 2025. The system supports provision of health and nursing care, housing, and livelihood so that older persons could live the rest of their lives in the environment familiar to them. Inclusive digitalization policies have been implemented as well. To improve affordability, subsidizing device purchase, etc., have been introduced. For accessibility, public websites are improving. To improve the literacy, support staffs have been dispatched. This slide shows a policy measure named Digital Utilization Support, provided from the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications. If you want to master smartphones or use online administrative procedures, join a digital utilization support seminar at the location near you. However, serious issues are arising. The first issue is that various policy measures have been developed from scratch, and they are not perfect. The second is that speed of aging is faster than that of implementing policy measures. There are few precedent cases in other countries that can be referred to. Even precedent cases exist, such as Section 58 regulations in the United States and EU Accessibility Act to improve information accessibility. It takes a long time to reform the legal system in Japan due to the huge social inertia. Section 58 in US and EU Accessibility Act are policies that are legally binding. In Japan, improvement of public websites are done voluntarily. But unfortunately, it will take a long time to enact a compulsory law in Japan. We have expectations for international standardization. It is, of course, an opportunity for us to export Japan's policy measures, which is not perfect, but effective and useful, to other countries, because it might be difficult for other countries to develop their own policy from scratch. However, it is more important for Japan to import policy measures in other countries to improve Japan's policy measures. International standardization on inclusive global digitalization can be imported to improve inclusive digitalization policies in Japan. I want to talk the relation between global digital economy and local regulations. The e-commerce market is growing year by year. The graph shows that the B2C market size will grow from $4 trillion in 2021 to 6.4 in 2026. Goods and services move across the border easily. Different regulations in each country may hinder the movement of goods and services. Consumer protection policies are the area that needs global harmonization. Consumers may be disadvantaged if the terms and conditions which consumers with little knowledge have no choice but to agree to unconditionally differ among providers located in different countries. ISO PC 335 guidelines for organizations to increase consumer understanding of online terms and conditions is important in this regard. Sensitive information such as credit card information must be used properly, regardless of the location of providers. European Data Protection Board issues new guidance on storing credit card data for future purchases in 2021, and it is a case to be learned in international standardization. The rules and regulations to provide information from e-commerce site should be harmonized. Insufficient provision of information in a foreign language can hurt consumers, no matter how advanced automatic translation is. Today I talked that as a super aging society, Japan developed various policy measures to tackle issues related to aging of the society. International collaboration, including international standardization, could improve these policy measures. Since goods and services move across the border easily, international harmonization is inevitable for digital economy. Consumer protection is an area that needs international harmonization, especially for terms and conditions, credit card information protection, information provisioning from e-commerce site, etc. Thank you very much for your attention.
Well, thank you to Hajime to provide this in advance in case of emergencies. It's coming in handy now. And I'm already starting to hear some terms coming back. So collaboration and data protection seems to be clearly on the mind of people. So let's keep an eye on what policies come out of Japan and see how that can help the rest of the world as well when we work on our standards. So with that, we're going to move to Beijing, actually. So I'm glad to announce that Fei Ho is here with us. Again, a colleague of mine in the standardization world. He's going to be talking to us about digital economy and a standard that we are developing at the moment. And he's joining us from the China National Institute of Standardization. So over to you, Fei.
Okay, thank you, Neil. Dear colleagues, good evening from Beijing. My name is Fei, and I work for China National Institute of Standardization, who is the National Major Committee of the ISO TC314. I'm also the project leader of ISO 25556, which is the stand of Asian inclusive digital economy. So nice to meet all of you online, and thanks so much for this opportunity to share some information and ideas with all of you. Thank you. There will be two parts in my presentation. In the first part, I will introduce a global survey about the Asian inclusive digital economy. And in the second part, I will update you some news, some information about the ISO 25556, the new ISO stand for Asian inclusive digital economy. Next, please. Thank you. At first, I would like to provide a brief introduction to the survey. This survey is about Asian inclusive digital economy and the related standardization issues, which was launched from the last February to last April. And the target respondents are the member bodies of ISO TC314 and also the member economies of APEC SCSC, which is the subcommittee on stands and conformance of Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. And next, please. Thank you. And there were about 20 questions involved, which could be categorized as 4 groups, as you see on the screen, including the impact of the digital economy on the elderly and their participation, the digital challenge and the divide faced by the elderly, and the demand and the consideration of an Asian inclusive digital economy, and others. Next, please. Thank you. As of the deadline, we have got the responses from 11 member bodies on the side of ISO TC314, as you see, including Austria, New Zealand, Canada, UK, Germany, Singapore, Norway, China, Japan, US, and Switzerland. Next slide, please. Thank you. On the side of APEC SCSC, we already received the responses from 10 member economies. They are Malaysia, Singapore, Peru, Thailand, Japan, China, Chile, Chinese Taipei, Hong Kong, China, and New Zealand. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce you some interesting findings from this survey. For the degree to which the digital economy impacted the elderly, more than 20% of the respondents scored 6 points and more. They believed that the digital economy really had a great impact on the elderly. And for the degree to which the elderly participate in the digital economy, the answers are much more equal. There's no option got more than 20% support. Yes. Next, please. Thank you. Okay, for the activities that the elderly mainly participate in the digital economy, the top 3 choices are online search, online shopping, and online entertainment. The selection routes by the respondents are close to 90%. And the last 4 ones are big data services, seeking employment online, cloud storage, and RSS services. And beyond the existing choices, many respondents were concerned about the online learning application services and connect with the family or friends, which are indeed important, especially during the COVID-19 situation. Next, please. Thank you. And for the main digital challenges or divide faced by the elderly, the top 3 choices are unable to access the smart community, unable to obtain the intelligent medical and healthcare, and unable to apply to the intelligent security facilities and measures. Next, please. Thank you. Regarding the main reasons for the aging digital divide or aging digital, yes, I'm sorry. We provided 16 options, and as shown on the screen, the top 3 choices are physiological characteristics of the elderly, the digital skills of the elderly, and the lack of the awareness of aging inclusive from the digital economy operator, all of which are above or close to 85%. Next, please. Thank you. And for the characteristics of the elderly that should be met by age-inclusive digital economy, we designed 3 groups of the options, which are the physical ones, psychological ones, and the other ones. We could recognize that on the screen, the digital skills and the weaker eyesight function are what people think needed to be satisfied most, and followed by the weak muscle and hearing functions, as well as the intelligence and memory loss. Next, please. Thank you. Thank you. Regarding the essential and the most valuable features of the age-inclusive digital economy, all of the options have gained a certain degree of the agreement, which are the accessibility, availability, ease of use, security, and privacy. What's more, we have got many constructive suggestions, such as combat ageism, affordability, and relevance. Next, please. Thank you. For the key elements and the consideration of the age-inclusive digital economy, we provided 6 options. The top 3 ones chosen by the respondents are the awareness, idea, and policy from the digital economy operation, and the user interface, the age-inclusive user interface, and the age-inclusive security design, and their scores are all around 70%. Next, please. Thank you. And in the open question session, on one hand, we got many constructive answers and suggestions, recommendations, which provides us with a lot of the inspirations and new ideas. Okay, thank you. Next, please. And on the other hand, many friends believe that this topic is important, timely, and relevant. Next, please. Thank you. Okay, based on the result and the answers and the feedback from the survey, as well as the discussion, we prepared and submitted the proposal for a new ISO stand, which title is Aging Societies, General Requirements and Guidelines for Aging Inclusive Digital Economy. And this MP balance was taken from the last December to this March. According to the result of the vote, this proposal has been registered as a new project in our TC ISO TC 314. Next, please. Thank you. According to the ISO schedule, it is planned to spend 3 years to finish this work, this stand. If everything goes smoothly, it will be published in 2025. Next, please. Thank you. And at this moment, the draft of this stand include 8 chapters. Besides the introduction, scope, normative references, terms and definitions, there are 4 key parts. Chapter 4 will provide the general principles for age-inclusive digital economy, such as combating ageism, accessibility, availability, affordability, which means low cost, and usability, security, and privacy. Next, please. Thank you. And chapter 5 will clarify the key factors for age-inclusive digital economy and the related requirement, which could be divided into 2 parts. The first part is the general requirements, and the next one is the specific requirement for different scenarios, such as the daily life and consumption, working and employment, and also learning and education. And chapter 6 will tell us how to establish or transform an age-inclusive digital economy, including the whole process and also the different actions taken by different stakeholders. And an informative annex will be attached at the end of this stand. It will provide a checklist of high-quality age-inclusive digital economy, and we want to provide some practical tools for the readers and users of this document by doing so. Okay, the next and the last, please. Thank you. Okay, I have already finished my report, and I'm so happy to and so enjoyable to share this idea and information with all of you. Thank you so much for all your precious time, and we are looking forward to your participation. Thank you. Back to Neil.
Fantastic, Faye. Always nice to hear where we are at with a new standard in development, and I hope people on the line will be equally curious to see what we've done with it once it's completed. So thank you, Faye. With that, we're traveling all the way now to Oslo, where we are going to be joined by Barrett Aspas, who is joining us as a partner in the ACK architecture firm, actually. So she's going to be talking about why we should also not only think about making things digitally inclusive, but also thinking about non-digital aspects and why that's important. So thank you, Barrett.
Thank you, Nell, and very nice to join with you, everybody online today. We are in a situation where very many of us are thinking very many good thoughts from what I hear, and are becoming aware that some of the digitalization is happening perhaps too fast, and we need to involve the users more than what has been used to so far. Next slide, please. Thank you. I thought about mankind has always had to deal with new technology. And children today are very comfortable with iPads and cell phones and digital communication. But if you show them a telephone or a slide ruler from the 1960s, many would probably not know what to do with it. To feel okay with using technology, we need to use it regularly. And frequent updates of apps also make this very necessary. Use it or lose it. Nearly every part of the world today has been touched by digital development of services, and it has brought many benefits to the farmer in Kenya who gets price information from different markets on the cell phone, compare and decide where and when to send produce to market. It cuts out the middleman and the farmer gets a fair price. To the many people worldwide who are finding solutions to urgent or long-term challenges, and we all benefit from having at our fingertips a vast amount of past experience, immediate knowledge, and contact with world experts at a click. It is very exciting to learn from best practice worldwide. Next slide, please. Yeah, thanks. In Norway, most private and public services are online only today. In countries where this is available, the majority of the population think this is okay and enjoy using it. At the same time, public and private service providers benefit from the use of finding information online and performing tasks that earlier were done by the provider. This has reduced cost for providers, and we mean that some of these resources now must be put towards giving service to people who cannot be online. Next slide, please. In Spain, Carlos San Juan, 78, a retired doctor, is campaigning to keep in-person customer services at bank branches and handed the Spanish government more than 600,000 signatures, saying he felt left out by the shift to online banking. Next slide, please. Thank you. We know that a number of people in the community cannot or will not go online for services. In Norway, this is 600,000 people out of a population of 5.4 million, more than 10%. In many countries, the percentage of the population not online is higher. And as several speakers have talked about, the reasons are many and varied. From lifelong condition, that means that the person will never be online, however much training is offered. It may be a short-term illness that takes one away from feeling like being online. It may be resistance to being online. It may be economic constraints, education. It may be bad connectivity. Many service providers at the same time don't have a support system for non-digital users, and it can be impossible to talk to a person. So we think the pendulum has swung too far. In many communities, there is widespread frustration with online-only services. But at the same time, the workforce is changing. Many companies find it, after COVID, difficult to fill jobs, while many people are not in the workforce. This we can see as an untapped human resource that can help service providers build a new type of customer citizen support system. Next slide. Thank you. We also probably all have experience from our own family or friends where some people are not comfortable with being online. So what can we do? Next slide, please. Thanks. This standard will give background to who the participants in the process are, what to consider when starting the process, where to put the resources, and how to design the system. Next slide, please. The goals for the standards are provide all customer citizens in communities with appropriate digital and non-digital support system that work well for both participants in the process. Both participants will be able to do the tasks efficiently with as little time as needed. Provide persons who are considering setting up a non-digital support system a comprehensive understanding, both from background information, best practice examples, checklists, and literature lists for further research. Next slide, please. Thank you. The standard is applicable to private and public service providers, and we want to focus that this is a standard for just the small part of the population that will not come online for different reasons. Next slide, please. A good system is as complex as necessary, as simple as possible. Respectfully nice, deliver what is promised, both for telephone support system, queue system, waiting times, ringback. Deliver what is promised for in-person support, times that it is possible to have a physical meeting. How to design a good non-digital customer citizen support system. We will describe all the steps in the process. Next slide, please. And give best practice examples and advice for where to put resources. Next slide, please. So to finish off, there is a need for a non-digital alternative to online services for a sizable part of any community, and we cannot ignore those people who can never come online. We propose a standard for how to design a good non-digital customer citizen support system for people who are not online, based on research, best practice examples, and checklists. We invite to a workshop in January 2023, where we hope to find best practice examples from around the world to help develop the proposal. As we all know, we all need human contact, and some people also need a strong human link to the digital world. With that, I'm passing back to Nell and thanking you all for listening.
Great, Brett. It's comforting to know that someone is always looking out for someone who might be left behind. So it's very important that we do so. And I would like to re-emphasize that we do have that workshop coming up in January. Those on the line, you can send me an email if you like to register for that. It's not yet online to register, but it will be next week. So do reach out if you are having trouble finding that. So with that, I would like to invite all the speakers to join me back on the screen so we can have a look at the questions that we've received. So we have quite a few questions that have come in, particularly in advance, actually. But I think a nice way to start is to perhaps start with Faye, because going back to basics, someone's saying, okay, can you just explain what is exactly digitalization? And in terms of digitalization in the workplace, do you have any suggestions of how to keep up to date with the new trends in the business?
Thank you so much for this question. Yes, I'm not an expert in this field, but in my personal view, digitalized means a process of reshaping our lives by using digital technical, such as the internet, big data, AI, blockchain, and others. And of course, digitalized does have a strong impact on employment and working. And regarding the older workers, personally, I think the digital working channels and non-digital ones, just as the Barrett mentions, should be both provided, as well as the training of the digital skills and related support, such as the help desk. And sorry for that. Unfortunately, I could not provide more practical cases from China since the retirement age in China is very young. So I have no practical cases. Sorry for that. That's my personal view. Thank you.
Interesting. Yes, I'm seeing in the UK that more people are staying in employment for a longer amount of time. So I think things will start to change, perhaps also in China. So who knows? Definitely change on the horizon. Thank you. And then Georgie, also again, going back to basics a little bit. So you've talked a little bit about the challenges that exist for older people to adopt to new technologies. Do you have any practical advice to give to an organization that might be looking into supporting people for that?
Thanks, Nell. As briefly outlined in Anne's presentation, we need to address the barriers for older people first, and that includes access, cost, privacy, and also implementing literacy programs. In Australia, and I think globally around the world, we're seeing that with the uptake of due to COVID-19, we're seeing significant increases of uptake of technology due to that forced adoption, I guess. So I think practical advice would be the more that we adopt technology, I think that will reduce the fear around technology and we'll see some of those challenges be addressed.
Absolutely. I don't know who said it, but was it Barrett? It says use it or lose it. I think it's a nice description. Thank you. And then Anne, someone's asking a bit more specifically around the care, well, either in a medical setting or in a care setting. So they're saying they're actually a medical professional and they're seeing that a lot of their latest communication is in a digital form, even like telemedicine and stuff like that. Is there anything that we could help older persons with in terms of ensuring that they have a good experience using these new services?
I think it goes, Nell, to Barrett's issue. Don't assume everyone can interface with the digital world. Firstly, consider that you've got to have options in your communication, and just doing everything online is not the answer for everyone. So I think we really need to really think closely about our communication strategies, but then we also need to make whatever digital platforms or technology we are going to use as user-friendly and as simple to use as possible. And that goes to Alex's point of, make sure that everything is co-designed with older people themselves, so it's more user-friendly. But once we get those bits right, we have options and we have well-developed technology. We shouldn't forget the need for training and adequate support. We need to support older people or any generation that struggles with using technology, and don't berate them for not being able to use the technology, but spend the time ensuring that they do understand, and don't do it for them, but maybe show them how to do it. A bit like the adage about feeding generations. Don't just provide the food, but maybe show how you can source and grow the food. But I also think that in all of that, we really do have to consider what is right for the individual and spend much more time on personalisation of approaches than think about them as just, a one-off solution that one size fits all. That's not the case. I think if we think of the impact that technology can have, it's individual, isn't it? And so approaches need to be individually responsible and appropriate. So that was I think we can do more. I think we can do more, and it's our responsibility to do more. I think also that standards help guide practice. We can learn, as Hajime pointed out in his wonderful presentation, we can learn a lot from countries that are dealing daily with super aging societies. But we also can learn from new perspectives, and some of those are coming from developing countries, as Barrett indicated. So thanks, Nell.
And many good points, and I think one of them I want to highlight is that you said, you know, it's not necessarily an older person that doesn't have the knowledge. It could be anybody. It's very true. So let's not forget that. Thank you. Let's see. We have quite a few questions here. So let me make sure that we cover most that we can.
Thing about
Of course.
yes. I think that there are kind of balance between online and offline services. For example, in Japan, we have more than 2,000 islands. So people living there need a day to go to a hospital to receive medication, and another day to go back to their home. So such people, even they are old people, they prefer to use online medication services. So maybe that is a balance. So we pay a lot of cost to receive a service, or reduce the cost to receive the same service by online. So we need to consider such. And the second thing is that even though we need to pay a huge cost for non-digital service, it is very necessary to provide such. As Barrett said, that to people who don't want to use digital, especially for public services. For private service, it is not necessary in some case that a company thinks that our market is online people only. That is their decision. So therefore, for public service, I think that coexistence of online and offline services is very necessary, but consider the cost of providing such. That is my thinking. Thank you.
I love it. A good balanced approach definitely needed. Thank you for that, Hajime. I think then I have a question that leads on to this. I'm not sure if maybe Brett wants to take this one. Maybe someone else wants to go into this as well. It relates to this balance. Someone's asking, how do we actually balance the positive and negative aspects of digitalization? Just think about the fact that we need to protect vulnerable people. Do we need more legislative framework, or do we need other types of support? Just think about things like phishing, identity theft, online fraud, things like that. I don't know, Brett, do you have any views on that?
Yes, I definitely have many points there. And again, the security, the protection isn't just for vulnerable groups. And I don't know any nation which is doing that well at the moment. It's phishing and emptying bank accounts and so on. You hear stories that are from all age groups. So that is a general problem for society, that we don't have enough legislation and protection in the digital world as consumers. I would very much like to pick up on Hajime's point about balancing online and offline. And I have a lovely example from Norway, where this summer, with a little pressure from the Norwegian Committee on the banking system in Norway, they have, all the Norwegian private banks have decided to, all of them are going to have a non-digital solution as well as an online. And that I think is a wonderful start. They are much better at the moment than the public services in Norway. They were convinced because the biggest bank in Norway, DNB, has tried this for 5 years. They tried 5 years back to invite about 60,000 of their customers who were people who were not using online. They invited, if they wanted to come in and have training, the bank was very happy to give them training. that was a great success and lots of cups of coffee and cakes. But they found that nobody started using online even after they were trained. So that use it or lose it is very important. If you're not needing to use your online service all the time, you may have forgotten it after a while, the next time you need to use it. So they decided then that there is a market in Norway for a bank that was looking after elderly people very well. And they've got a lot of new customers because of doing that. I think that is a good example.
It's a wonderful story. I mean, we're losing sometimes the social connections, and that's what people sometimes are looking for as well. So very well pointed there. Thank you. And then one question coming in here online just now. Maybe this is for Faye, because I think it might relate to your standard in development. Someone is saying, you know, if we're working towards a digital economy, is there a space for organizations to actually think about the education side of things and the planning of that? Is that something that's going to be addressed in that document?
Oh. Yeah, I would like to open my microphone. Yes. I agree with this idea. It's important, and how to say it, in my personal view, I think digital skill education or training has its importance. It does have its importance, but there is another idea. There is still a principle that I agree with. That is, the elderly, the older people cannot be forced to accept the digital items, the digitalization. So digital skill education or training is assistance and a guide, but not force. So for these recommendations, I think it is important in the new standard development. And in my personal view, I think it depends. It depends, I think. So I'm sorry. There is one thing I would like to share. The intergeneration communication, I think, is very helpful. The elderly, the older persons might get the digital informations, knowledges, and the skills with the interaction with the young people. That's all. That's my answer. Thank you.
No, it's definitely, maybe there's more cooperation that's needed indeed. In terms of cooperation, Hajime, I have a question for you, but you can answer both perhaps.
In the old days, when we bought a mobile phone, the manual was very thick. But today, when we buy a smartphone, we don't have any manual attached. That means that usability has been improved dramatically. That so the same is true. So every service needs to make easier to use or provide usability as much as possible. That is the kind of prerequisite. And and also, as I mentioned in my presentation, terms and conditions for e-commerce is very long. 10 pages or so. So no one read it and just agree to use it. So that is I think not fair. They need to provide 5 lines or 10 lines. What is most important to us, and we agree to it. So such kind of plain explanation and using plain language or shorter message is a prerequisite of everything for digital economy. That is my thinking. Thank you.
I love that suggestion. I wish we had that, the 5-line terms and conditions. I would love it. And Barrett, you want to go in that topic as well?
Yes, supplementing wonderful thoughts from Hajime. I would also like that when you enter a website, there is a big button that said simple, simple use. And you can choose whether you want to follow their enormous amount of info or if you just want it simply. Wouldn't that be great?
I would love it.
Customization.
I mean, I would love it personally. If you can make it simpler and I don't have to read all of that to know what's happening, I would definitely love it. Thank you. I think, Hajime, this one is also for you because it's specifically for a Japanese related question. So someone's saying it's a world leading country in terms of aging societies. Do you think there will be an impact on the advancements that you've made in technology, and how can we start cooperating with other countries to bring those advances to our countries?
Okay. So technologies such as ICT has a power to improve care services, for example. So that is a matter of standardization in IEC System Committee AAL, Active Assisted Living. By using ICT, it will be possible to personalize the service to the care recipient. The personalization is the most important word for digital services, and Japan is eager to collaborate with foreign countries, and there actually exist a number of joint research projects with other countries, such as EU member countries, Sweden or Germany or Spain or so. So we are very positive to have international collaboration. Thank you.
Fantastic. I'm sure plenty of people will reach out to you now and find out more. I think we have time for one short answer, and I think this one is quite important, and we haven't really touched on that. I think, Anne, this one's for you. Someone is saying, do you have any advice to give if you're supporting someone with dementia? How can we make sure that they can use the digital world as well? Any advice?
That's a great question, but a very complex question and a complex answer. Again, I think technology needs to be really tailored and personalised for where that person living with dementia might be in their lives. But also there's been extremely great work done globally from around the world from relevant Alzheimer's associations and dementia associations. Our own country, and I'll put in a plug for Dementia Australia, is leading a lot of that work. And I can maybe send whoever asked that specific question some links to their researchers and their projects. It's you know, I think there's great advances that really help people with dementia. And one I often refer to in our work, I live in a regional community, and an older gentleman in his 80s went missing from his own home. And had we had appropriate surveillance and monitoring, not intrusive, but community monitoring, they might have found out that he actually hadn't wandered far away from his home. He was found meters in his own home. But the approaches to that, I think, to find him were inappropriate and quite distressing, not only for him, but for his family and the general community. We had police helicopters going around at night, and whereas I think some of the smarter technologies, smart community technologies, smart home technologies, but for him, smart individual technologies. Alex referred to the button and the pendant in his presentation. Most people abandon that, but the opportunities for smart clothing, wearable devices like watches, and appropriate jewelry that someone would actually use on a daily basis might have helped find that gentleman who was out at night in winter. We live in the tropics, winter's not bad, but still 3 or 4 nights out in the cold, bewildered and alone, must have been very traumatic for him. And so I think there are rapid advances, and we can learn from every country and every experience that communities have to make sure that we improve the way we deliver on technology, but the opportunities for particular people living with conditions have and can experience a better, more independent life as a result of technologies.
Absolutely. I'm all for it. Let's make these devices actually look nice, and then we won't take them off, right? So definitely good points made there. And yeah, please share in the link if you have a link for people to use. And with that, I want to thank all of our speakers, all of our attendees. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much. I want to leave you with just a few words to say, if you're interested to hear more about our work, please go to our website. All of the news is going to be available there. And also, if you're interested in joining the technical committee, please send me an email. I'm very happy to speak with you on a one-to-one basis and find out how I can direct you to the right person. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you at the next one.
Thanks, Nell. Thanks, everyone.